Over the last decade or so, something has fallen away in youth culture. Once, it was common for boys to find belonging and expression by forming bands, gathering in garages, borrowing amps, playing their first shaky gigs. Today, that instinct and shared rite of passage is fading. The decline is visible in the data as much as in the atmosphere. Research from MIDIA suggests that young men are disengaging from music at an accelerating rate. Among 16 to 24-year-old males, live music engagement has halved, while interest has shifted to gaming and online content. This dovetails with the wider atomization brought about by social media. Music discovery happens algorithmically rather than socially. Band-driven music has lost its dominance in the mainstream charts. A Billboard analysis found that groups have almost entirely vanished from the Hot 100, with solo artists now overwhelmingly dominating. Across the last decade, only a handful of new bands have broken into the top 100 at all. The cultural reward system has moved elsewhere. The message is, don't form a band, build a personal brand. Record labels have little appetite for bands anymore. A group means creative disagreements and higher costs. A solo artist can record anywhere, tour flexibly, and deliver content on schedule. Labels now prefer to sign artists who have already proven themselves by building an audience on TikTok or Spotify. This erosion extends to the live music infrastructure. The Music Venue Trust's latest report in the UK found nearly half of grassroots venues are running at a loss, with profit margins under 1%. In the US, 60% of independent venues are unprofitable. Touring circuits have shrunk dramatically, where a typical national tour in the 1990s might have included nearly 30 stops. Today it averages barely a dozen. The home studio has replaced the rehearsal space. The next phase is already here. AI-driven music tools such as Suno allow anyone to generate fully produced songs in seconds. What once required instruments, hours of practice, and group collaboration now requires nothing more than a prompt. Industry analysts estimate the music production software market will grow by over 400 million in the next couple of years. The long grind of practice and performance is replaced by frictionless generation. Let me give you a comparison. First, a real artist, and then a terrible fake one. The real artist I've chosen for the organic sound is Didier Schoenberg, an artist based in Paris who, after working diligently on the local circuit, has had Sony invest 20 grand into the recording, mastering, and promotion of his debut album with the producer Rory Stroud. Here's a sample of the first track.
Isn't it just like me who want to be just like you and wanting it just like this, but just we two, just so you know, isn't it just our luck that we are just in time for making it just the way that we want it, just so you know, on the tip of my tongue, where you need a young perineum under my thumb, and rising up along the core of all that's laid before me, and I'm lapping and drawing drops of warm water, siphoning all that's mine by right, a gliding caresses long, slow, adagio to a scherzo as I get what I'm playing for and waiting for, taking in your physical.
Actually, Didier Schoenberg doesn't exist. I made him up, created an AI picture, put my own lyrics and genre choice into AI software, and after paying $8, the whole song, from start to finish, took about 20 minutes. A case in point was the recent Velvet Sundown fiasco, an AI-generated band that amassed millions of streams before listeners realized no such musicians existed. Its music was assembled from data-trained models imitating the sound of indie and soft rock, released under fabricated backstories, complete with AI-generated artwork and social profiles. The songs were bland but passable, drawing enormous numbers, not because of artistry, but because they were so perfectly unobtrusive. Velvet Sundown became the logical endpoint of the algorithmic music economy. Utterly familiar, frictionless, impossible to dislike, and equally impossible to love. I'm betting that there will be a muted, disorganized pushback against AI music that will fade out. The reason being that we live in a dismal Philistine culture where reality is no longer necessary for enjoyment. People are already inured to the sound of fake voices, having grown up with Alexa and satellite navigation systems in their cars, and sharing AI content as Instagram Reels. Virality and dopamine are the main drivers. There are many people who routinely get off to anime pornography, featuring despairingly nubile-looking Asian characters with expressions of almost distressed erotic fixity. So the borders of real and unreal are already so lax. There will be millions of people who will download and stream AI music, not especially fussed about its legitimacy, or even if legitimacy is a thing to acknowledge. The music exists, therefore it's music. We live in an era with infinite access to new art, but the systems that deliver it reward the illusion of discovery over the reality of it. Listeners are nudged toward what feels new but sounds comfortably adjacent to what they already know. The streaming platform's ideal content is frictionless, familiar, endlessly listenable wallpaper. Music that doesn't challenge too much, keeps skip rates low, completion rates high, and algorithms happy. It means that genuine originality often registers as a risk signal in the data. The very metrics that decide what we hear are calibrated to avoid surprise. There is something quietly elegiac in this shift. The sound of a drum kit bleeding through suburban walls, the smell of beer-soaked floors at small venues, the nervous excitement before a first set. As that outlet disappears, replaced by the performative self of social media or the solitude of bedroom production, something human and formative is lost. The noise of a band was a shared language. Its absence leaves a kind of cultural quiet that no amount of digital sound seems to fill.
Yo, subscribe to my dog, Echo Chamberlain, the creator keeping it happening. Subscribe to keep providing the right kind of lifeline, to keeping the pipeline, the kind of commentary that's on point and more necessary than ever. And he'll be better for it to inform us all with new installments ready to tell it and lift up the hood and show the world how it all ought to be and keeping it real. So keep the algorithm growing and flowing by showing love to my brother. Keep creating no matter all the others, all the pretenders who can't bring it, with the special kind of Echo Chamberlain brand. Yeah. You feel me? Subscribe or I'ma pull out my Glock and my 9 and leave you lying in chalk, fool.
The dissolution of the braggadocio-driven musical culture and the retreat of young men into more passive domains are related. The drift of boys from bands into gaming is not heroin or nihilism or delinquency. It's just where the cultural current has gone. Gaming offers the same competitive spark, but it's a different kind of engagement. Passive, where music was performative. Sedentary, where it was kinetic. You play within structures already designed, executing choices coded by someone else. There is little risk of embarrassment, no strings to tune, no crowd for a fledgling frontman to have to learn how to become magnetic in front of. That distinction matters. For most of modern cultural history, boys defined themselves through the trial of performance, of putting something into the world, being judged by it, and clawing respect through talent and bravado. The band was a medium for that. So was the stage, and centuries before that, the concert hall. The great advances in Western music often came from that crucible of male one-upmanship, that fusion of intellect and testosterone, where creative evolution was indistinguishable from the will to win. In the late 18th century, Beethoven and his contemporaries were engaged in public improvisation contests that were a staple of European musical life. Themes would be tossed at them by the audience or by challengers, and they would have to transform them on the spot to show imagination, speed, command, composure under scrutiny. The legends that grew from those encounters weren't only artistic, they were social. Greatness was achieved by besting others in the open. In the smoky clubs of the American South during the 1920s and 30s, musicians like Jelly Roll Morton and Mississippi John Hurt were caught in constant high-stakes skirmishes, improvising, embellishing, reinventing popular tunes to outdo each other. The story of Jerry Lee Lewis, who opened for touring acts across the American Midwest and Canada in the 50s, is practically mythic. Each night he'd go harder, tearing through his set with manic sexual intensity. Gradually, he worked his way up the bill until Johnny Cash refused to follow him. "Nobody follows the killer," Lewis said. The 60s and 70s took that impulse and sublimated it into artistry. The rivalry between the Beach Boys and the Beatles drove both to greater heights of studio innovation. Pet Sounds produced Sgt. Pepper, each record a coded challenge. In the 80s, on the streets of New York, Detroit, and Los Angeles, an MC had to earn credibility face-to-face in cypher circles and parking lot showdowns to command the respect of peers through mastery of craft and force of personality. That tradition has, in recent years, dissipated. Artists are encouraged to be emotionally authentic, as if authenticity itself equates to quality. A lot has been lost. The fading of bands as the gang, the unit that sharpened its internal rivalries into outward cohesion, the disappearance of the culture around bands, the fanzines, posters, rival followings. In their place, we have fandoms, diffuse, online, more about projection than participation. Finally, the erosion of zeitgeist itself. Once every few years, a new sound or movement would dethrone the old. Now, everything coexists, algorithmically managed, endlessly available. As for Didier Schoenberg, well, I've constructed a whole album of his, and it's about to go up on iTunes and Spotify. Here's the thing. If someone with no musical background does this kind of generation for a hustle or a living, that kind of sucks. But if you've written music since you were a teen and have struggled with breakthrough that whole time, then you kind of build up a bit of muso karma. And won't it be interesting to see what happens?